Hello everyone, and today's conversation is going to be about you, how you connect to your deeper self through nature. And in order to help you to do so, I invited Sara Estelle Turner to show us and tell us how we can do it. And before I will give opportunity to Sara to introduce herself, I just want to mention that I'm very happy and honored that I can call Sara my friend. She is also a long-standing member of the Magical Creators. And I wanted to introduce to all of you her magic and how she helps all of us to go deeper within us. And yeah, so Sara, over to you. Can you please introduce yourself and take it over, please?
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to chat, Inga, and absolutely, we are deep friends. Anybody that takes this journey always has a very long-standing friendship take place. So yes, so my background, to introduce myself, my background since I was in my early 40s, possibly, it happened fairly late on, through a horrible experience with quite severe anxiety that developed in my life. Someone suggested to me using flower essences, and I didn't know what they were. And so I went to find out, and from the moment I saw them, I was kind of hooked. And so over the course of several months, I started taking essences, and they're not magic cures that suddenly fix everything. But when you work with nature deeply, it does help you to change on deep levels. It kind of helps you to grow deeper roots, if you like. And so I started to find out all about essences. And over the next few years, I just trained with all different producers. Most people know flower essences through the batch essences. And of course, they are wonderful. But my actual expertise and speciality is to help people look at all different ranges, not just the batch ones, and from that find the energy that best suits them, because every single range, so if you're brand new to this, the batch essences, some people say Bach, B-A-C-H, they're the ones you find in the chemists in the UK, even here in France where I live. They are in many of the pharmacies. The other well-known ones are the Australian bush essences, Alaskan essences, and there are many, 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 many ranges of flower essences. So each one has a slightly different vibration, because the land of Australia is very different from the land of Alaska or the land of the UK or France. And so we look at you know, my role is very much in helping people to know who they are and to have the best experience of being here on this planet and using nature as our guide. So yeah, I have my own range of essences called MoonFlower essences. They are actually made with moonlight, which is different from most other ranges, which are made in the sunlight. So my interest is very much in the divine feminine. So the moonlight brings in a completely different aspect. I live in southwest France with my family, which is exciting. And yeah, I hope that's enough to give you a little flavour of who I am. For some reason, Inga, I can't hear you.
Yeah, my mic is not working.
Okay, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, my mic is not working for some reason. So if you can't hear me, just take it over and go whatever needs to be shared.
Okay, I'll just, I'll do my best.
So yeah, because my Zoom says that my mic is not working. So for those of us who don't know, what is a flower essence and why it's important to take them?
Okay, so so first of all, for anybody that's brand new to this, flower essences are this. It's healing for the soul. They are not that we do not treat the physical. And I guess I should say I'm the chair of the British Flower and Vibrational Essence Association. So I kind of have to totally behave myself when I talk about these things. They don't treat the physical in any way. They are not essential oils. They do not have fragrance. They are not herbal medicine. I'll share with you in a second how we make them, but they're vibrational. And I think many people in your community, Inga, will understand what that is. So they are soul healing for the soul. So we look at how we feel. And so the very first question, if you went to see a flower essence practitioner, they would do a deep dive with you as to how you feel. Maybe look at some of your beliefs as well. But essentially, it's about, I feel really stressed, or I feel very overwhelmed, or I feel stuck, or I'm fearful about going back out into the world now, or I'm completely confused because the world has changed and I don't know how to be now. And my business has disappeared, or my income has disappeared and I'm really scared. They can help us with all of these things. They look like they come in little bottles like this. The bottles won't necessarily look like this, but they're little tiny bottles. We put a drop in water, or you can put it straight in your mouth. They're completely safe. They're safe. They have no contraindications, so you can give them to pregnant women. You can give them, women often when they're breastfeeding their babies take them so that the babies get the essence. You can give them to young children, people who are on medication, people at the end of life, people who are very poorly. The only contraindication is essentially if you don't wish to ingest alcohol, because they are preserved in alcohol, because otherwise the water would go off. So the brandy or the vodka is there as a preservative. So for people who, for religious reasons, or for anybody who doesn't want to ingest any kind of alcohol, that's really the only time that we would look at it might not being suitable. Having said that, many people are really comfortable because you only put a drop in water. It's massively diluted, so for children it's really not an issue, unless of course, as I said before, it causes some kind of challenge for you to think about alcohol.
Absolutely. And is there a difference to use bought essences made by somebody else versus to make your own essence?
Absolutely there is, yeah. I mean, the bought essences, like anything, are there, and I use them all the time because they're convenient and they may be exactly what we need. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are all different ranges of essence, and every range of essence, so all the bought essences out there, will all have slightly different signatures to them, depending on the intention of the producer and also of the land that they're created on. So with this kind of thing, we work very deeply of essentially the way I do it. Maybe other people who use this might do it slightly differently, but the way I do it is very intuitively. So rather than think about, we develop a relationship with the flower or the tree. So we tend to get magnetically drawn towards a specific range. So for example, if I just use you as an example here, Inga, if I was to ask you whether you would like to take essences from Australia and connect with the sort of sacred Aboriginal energy, or the essence, Australia is a very hot, generally speaking, very unique land. Alaska is a very different land. It's a completely different climate. There's much fewer people. So if I just asked you now, where would you just intuitively be drawn? Australia or Alaska?
I think at this time, probably Australia.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we would do it. We'd just kind of like talk to people. And so you don't need to know why. why they're different. You just know that that's the energy you need. And people know that. So we kind of work along those sorts of lines. Now, creating your own essences is a very special experience. And the reason I'm passionate about it is that it's super easy to do. Everybody, even if you live in a flat, you know, even if you think there's no nature around you, there might be a pot plant in the supermarket. Now, some people might think, well, I can't possibly create with a plant from the supermarket because it hasn't got good energy. But the plants that grow like that, their energy is different for sure, but they're hugely resilient because they haven't had the surroundings around them. You know, they're not from, you know, they haven't got their roots in the ground. So, but they're still living beings, and they still have a message to share. They have an energy, they have a life force. So everybody can do it, and it's really easy. And one of the reasons I'm really passionate about this is I don't want to kind of go down a big dark hole with you, any of you here, but I think we all know that there is a potential of a time coming where we will need to be more self-sufficient and take back our power, essentially, and go back to the ancient ways of looking after ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with taking pharmaceutical drugs if that's what we need. Of course not. That's why we're here on this earth as modern beings, to walk both paths. But just outside your front door are nature beings, plants, flowers, trees, shrubs, spaces that can support you in feeling better. Now, if you're brand new to this, it might kind of seem a bit far-fetched, but just think about how you feel when you go out into nature. Most people feel better. They take a deep breath, they appreciate the space around them. Maybe you have a favorite flower. Maybe you go and sit in a certain part of your park or your garden. Maybe there's a flower that when you walk past, it kind of calls your attention. So this is all the nature kingdom speaking to us. So we all have the potential really, really easily with tiny expense to actually create our own essences. And when you do that, it's a life skill, and it can really, really help you. It's kind of something you don't need to go to anybody else to help you. I mean, you can, because it's difficult to do, to travel life on your own. So we all need help, of course we do, but we can also access a lot of this support ourselves. Does that help?
Yes. So, for example, I live in a flat. I have a balcony, and I grow a lot of petunias. So I can potentially use petunias as a material for flower essences.
Absolutely, yeah. Perfect. I love petunias. Yeah.
Is it any meaning behind the petunia plant? I'm very drawn to them.
To be honest, I don't know, because I've never worked with a petunia. I also love them, but this would be your journey, Inga, and this is just a beautiful example. By making an essence with a petunia, you would ask the petunia what her special relationship with you is, because if I made a petunia essence and you made one, they'd have something similar about them, but they'd probably have a different message, because your petunia is in the UK on a balcony. In fact, mine is also on a windowsill, because petunias usually don't, I mean, they can be planted in the ground, but people often put them in pots. So mine are French, yours are English. You know, they're going to be slightly different. So part of it will be their colour. What's your favourite colour, petunia?
It's purple. Or I love that they are multicolored. So I have range of purple, magenta, and yellow.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, so a lot of the flowers are, the colour is always a signature. A purple petunia will have a slightly different message to a magenta one or a yellow one. So you're like me, I think. I love purples and magentas as well. Purple is a very grounding colour. It helps people who have a lot of expansive energy to ground it. So I think that makes sense for you, doesn't it? Both of us have kind of the word magical in what we do. So magic in its essence is and I know you work very intuitively, Inga, is energy that's not necessarily in a form, it's just inspiration. So we have to then work to bring that inspiration through into a physical form. And that's essentially what magic is, you know, it's bringing the invisible into the visible. So purple would help that process. Magenta is a very feminine color, deeply spiritual, very linked to the divine feminine. So would help the feminine aspect of a life or business or the soul. Yellow is the color of the solar plexus, so it would be connected to confidence and willpower and sovereignty, all those wonderful things.
Excellent. So, when we talk about creating our own flower essences, do we need to have any special equipment or those fancy bottles that you showed?
Yeah, so we do need little bits and pieces, but which you might need to just go and find in a pharmacy, but they're not difficult to get and they're not expensive. So let me just show you a photograph of a flower essence being made. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So essentially this is all you need is a bowl. This is heather being made. So you need a bowl. Now the bowls I use, I mean, you could have a special bowl, but you can go to your local supermarket. Next time you go to the supermarket, just look at the sort of cooking section and you'll find little bowls, you know, this big, not very big. You don't need anything big. £1, £2, and I don't know quite what they cost, but you know, like the Pyrex dishes or just something simple. You don't need anything fancy. It needs to be glass and it needs to be plain glass, not coloured. And that's
So
all
it's
you need.
transparent.
I beg your pardon?
It's transparent, right? So it's glass, so it's not any other material.
Absolutely, yeah. So you might have something like that already in your kitchen and you could use that. The only thing that I would recommend is that you don't use it. If you decide to use a special bowl that you have in your kitchen, which fits the purpose, you need to clean it obviously very well and then dedicate it to the process. It's not something where at 10 o'clock you make a flower essence and at 12 o'clock you make your soup from it and then you make a flower essence the next day, you know, because it's an energetic being. So your glass bowl becomes a sort of sacred chalice type thing. So you need a bowl, you need some mineral water, not tap water because it's got all sorts of gunk in it. Just use plastic bottled water. You don't need very much. And how we make them is we basically connect with a flower and then we float the flowers in the water. Traditionally it's done in the sunshine, but we don't always have the sunshine. So I, in particular, have developed a kind of reputation for being a bit naughty, I should say, and I often do it in non-traditional ways, which doesn't always go down hugely well with the more traditionalists. But I think my personal take in that is that it's not actually me doing it, and nature is so much larger than me. And if I try and control the experience, then I'm literally just kind of like controlling experience. So it's, well, I want to say it's best. It's a lovely, traditionally we make them in the sunshine, but we don't, unless you live in a Mediterranean country, even here in southwest France today, we have clouds floating around, you know, it's not a perfect flower essence making day. So you can basically work with the weather that you have. There are essences made in hurricanes and pouring rain and snow, and they work beautifully. So you need a bowl, a water, a flower, a tree. You don't need to cut it, although you can. You need water, mineral water. You need, that's it. And then to collect your essence, you need bottles with pipettes like this, you know, something like that. Now, I think you can get them from pharmacies. This is a 30ml bottle. This is a 10ml bottle. It doesn't really matter about the size, excuse me, because in this mini program that I'm running, I'm actually teaching you to make the mother tincture. And then from that, it's diluted right down. It's a little bit like, it's not homeopathy, but if anybody knows anything about homeopathy, it gets diluted right down to tiny quantities. And the smaller the quantity, the more powerful it becomes almost. So we need minute quantities. So a bottle this big, you know, this is for personal use, would last you a lifetime. And I'm not kidding.
Excellent. And I would imagine to do it on your own, by yourself, it wouldn't be so much fun as what you have created, and it's 5-day experience. Can you talk us through what people can, what is it, first of all, and why it's, well, not important, but why it would be good to join?
Yeah, well, we can do it on our own, absolutely. You can go and Google how to do this and you'll find loads of videos showing you how to do it. So there's no secret there. What I've realized actually about the last year ago, that one of the things that I really love to do and that I am actually pretty good at is help creating experiences for people. And what I mean by that is actually guiding people through things to do and helping them, not, giving people guidance as how to do things, but then allowing the space for people to find out exactly what their experience is, rather than me telling them. Because if I tell you, that's my experience, not yours. So in this 5-day experience, what we're going to be doing is it's going to be held, you're going to get access to some videos that I've created showing you actually how to do it. You'll be able to download them and keep them forever. We're also creating a group on Facebook. I'm sure you're all aware of all of that, all this kind of thing, because you're watching it on this right now. And for those 5 days, we're going to be essentially working together. So the first aspect of it would be to set your intention as to how you would like to feel as the world starts to change and we go back out again now. How are you feeling? And what kind of support do you need? How would you like to feel? And then start to look around you in nature at who starts to appear. One of my flower essence students just said to me the other day, Sarah, since I've been taking the diploma, I've just noticed flowers that are right outside my front door. I'd never seen them before, and that they've always been there. So certain flowers and trees will just start to, because if you can see a tree, the tree can see you. It's a living being. So this is a co-creative process. So those petunias, Inga, that you have, they've got, and I know you know this, they have a living life, they've got a life force too. And I'm sure, knowing you, you could sit down and do some automatic writing and just get some messages from petunias. Ask them a question and they'll talk to you. So, so we just start to look at what's around us, and then I will show you, and I've already told you a little bit how we do it, but I'll give you really sort of detailed guidance as to how to do this. I'll be sharing with you how to do it in the traditional way. Of course, as I said, the traditional way assumes that we have sunshine. Now, next weekend, we might not have sunshine. There's nothing we can do about that. So, and as I shared with you, I make them in moonlight. So I would ask you as well is to be very intuitive how, let's use your petunia, how your petunia would like to be created. Does she need moonlight energy, or does she need sunlight energy, or does she need a bit of both? That's between you and her. Next weekend is an eclipse weekend. You may or may not know, I expect many of you know, that we are in the middle of a very intense eclipse season, right in the middle of 2020. Next weekend is the final eclipse of this season. So it's going to be a big weekend, and I think it would be a very powerful weekend for anybody to tune in and kind of close the doors on the first part of June 2020, which where a lot of things have kind of dissolved, and just say, okay, so what do I want to build now? There's going to be some very strong Capricorn energies around next weekend. Capricorn is about building the world for the next 7 generations. So what do we want to start laying the foundations down for the next 7 generations? And just start to set those kinds of intentions. And yeah, I think it's fun to take these journeys together. You'll have the ability to ask questions, to be supported, to be inspired. And once you've made your essence and bottled it, and I call it living ceremony. So once you enter the ceremony, once you start doing it, the doing it will tell you the next step. I can guide you, if you like, with with experience, but actually the doing will guide you. You will know. And this is why essence making is such a beautiful teacher of intuition, because we live in a world where we've been taught to follow rules. We've been taught to look outside of ourselves for answers. Most of us, and I will include myself in this, can go down rabbit holes of looking what every other entrepreneur in the world is doing, and then comparing myself and thinking, I'm not as good as them, I can't do that. We all do that. Some of us maybe more than others, and it's very paralyzing. But if you think of nature, if you have a rose bush and a lily and a petunia, they don't look, the rose bush doesn't look at the lily and go, oh my goodness, I don't have petals like that. My root system's completely different from yours. Oh my goodness, there must be something wrong with me.
Mhm.
Flowers just bloom. They just are themselves. So that they're beautiful teachers of just being yourself. And I think that's why I use them so much, because it's something that I have struggled with, the self-confidence part. Nature also knows how to change. And we're at this juncture of life on Earth where everything is changing. Every year nature goes, she allows her leaves to drop. She just gets on with it. So, and we're all struggling with this now. We're like going, oh my goodness, we're in the middle of a big change. I'll hold on to this part, because if I let go, what's going to happen? And there's so much fear about the unknown. So I'm not quite, I think I've just kind of started talking about something else there, but I hope I answered your question, Inga.
Absolutely. And subconsciously, I was putting a lot of flowers on my balcony exactly for this moment. I like when it's sunshine. Today it's rain, but when it's warm and sunny, I like to have my morning coffee and do journaling or reading a book in that surrounding. I love looking at my flowers. I haven't done a messaging or communicating part yet, so I'm waiting now for a next sunny day, and I'm going to explore that opportunity. Presumably, so that 5-day experience, creating your own flower essence, connecting with yourself, is for people who are open to the idea that plants, trees are living beings, that they have a message for you, they can talk and they feel. So if somebody is struggling with that idea, they're probably not really suited. Or if anyone who wants to change their beliefs and expand their knowledge about plants, I think they need to join.
Yeah, it's absolutely about co-creating in new ways. As I say, nature knows how to survive. We saw in the last few months that when the humans went indoors, nature regenerated herself really quickly. So I did an experiment several years ago, and I'm happy to post the photos actually here on the forum if you'd like me to. It was when I was back in the UK. I planted some lettuce in trays. It wasn't in the earth, and I covered the trays at night because we had loads of snails. And I misted one tray with essences, and I just misted the other tray with ordinary water. The difference was extraordinary, and I was like completely blown away. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it because I was kind of thought, well, if there's no difference, that would be really embarrassing. If you'd like me to, I'll post the photos. It was like night.
Oh, yeah,
And the ones that got misted with essences didn't get eaten by the bugs. The ones that were misted with just water got much more eaten. So nature knows how to thrive. So when we kind of return to our roots and see ourselves as beings of this planet rather than separate, I think that's been a lot of the problem, is that we've seen ourselves as separate. So it's got to call you. You know, if it doesn't call you, that's absolutely fine. But if it does, this is not about becoming a professional flower essence practitioner, although that might be something you'd like to do. It's not what it's about. It's about helping you connect back to your next step through working with nature. Children love to do it. If you have children, they will adore it. You'd be surprised how family members get involved, especially children. Yeah, and it's just a life skill. It's a beautiful thing to come back into the present moment and just to connect with a wisdom that speaks to your heart rather than your head. It's a great way of coming out of this bit of us and coming back into our hearts.
While I was listening to you, what I've noticed, I do have a calling to join, even though I didn't plan. But while we were talking, I want to know more about my petunias now. But I have like a packed weekend next week, like the whole week is packed. Will I still have an opportunity to do it, like at the moment when I have free time, or it's like a schedule where you do activities together?
Yeah, well, we are going to be working together over the weekend, and I'm calling it a 5-day experience. But having said that, so let me say it in slightly different ways. All the materials will be there for you, so you can do it at any other time as well. It's not going to take a huge amount of time. The very first exercise will be setting an intention. So maybe you already have that just by listening to us now. The next bit will be gathering your materials. I've already kind of told you what you need already now. The next bit will be putting the flowers in water. You don't need to sit next to the bowl. You just put the flowers in the water and get on with your day. Let them do it. It's not you doing it. It's the flowers or the trees. And then you have to decant it. Takes 10 minutes. And then the final part, which is, I think, is what I was talking about before, and I got slightly derailed about talking what nature does, is just finding out what the essence does. Now, that's like you and your petunias, that's a kind of a journey that's going to take an awful lot more than 5 days. But that's the same for all of us. And we start by writing down the initial sensations that we get. And then we take the essence and see what happens, essentially, and we give it to friends and we say, how do you feel? Or not. So that's the intuitive part. And I'll be there to guide you for that. So you don't need loads of time. And if you do have a very busy time ahead of you, I would say it would be a lovely thing to do, because it's going to reconnect you back to some life force. And bring you more into the present.
Okay, great. So, and I know that it's very affordable price as well. Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Can you remind us how much was it?
Yeah, it's £38. So I've, literally made it just like super easy to take part if you'd like to. Previously, the materials that I'm going to be sharing with you have only been available to people who take the Diploma in Flower Vibrational Essences with me. So this is a big calling for me. It's 5 years since we moved to France. So at this time, I usually like to do something special, because it's actually nature that has supported us in this. Nature helped me set up my business. Through teaching about nature, She supported us emotionally all the time we moved here, and she supports me now as we live in this new country, both emotionally but also financially. So I'm just really grateful. So this is my way of giving back, and helping people reconnect back to really, really very affordable. In fact, there's no cost at all once you've got your bowl and your bottle and a tiny bit of alcohol, of helping yourself, because the world is in need of big emotional support right now. And when large groups of people come together, we can actually change. We can start to change consciousness.
Excellent. Okay, I will share the link for people how they can join. And also, I've just realized that next week is 6 years since I'm doing my business on a full-time basis. So I think it's a perfect celebration way how to mark that anniversary.
I'm sure your purple and magenta Petunias would love it. Yes, absolutely. And it's made me, I've been looking at my purple Petunias thinking, they are so beautiful. Do yours smell? Do they have a fragrance?
Yes.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Yeah, so I keep longingly looking at them. I open the kitchen window and the smell comes in. So I might be joining you actually to do the same thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sara, for this lovely interview, and I hope it inspired people, even if you don't join the Essence experience, that you connect with nature, be more present when you are out, and appreciating plants around you so you can connect with yourself better.
Absolutely. Yeah, nature is here for us. We come from nature and we go back to nature. So yeah, thank you, Inga. It's been really nice to be able to share my passion and to share a little bit about how easy this is and how supportive it can be. So